Thinking back to the beginning of my education as a young person has always been a joy for me. There were so many good memories that I experienced, and I learned a lot of new things along the way. My name is William Bradford, and I am 35 years old. I lived on a plantation in Pennsylvania for the early part of my life, which my father was the owner of. When I first started going to school, my mom was the one teaching my siblings and I. We mostly learned how to read and write. When I was old enough, my parents sent me to a parochial school, which was specified for the members of my community who were of the same religion that I was. The people of my community believed that the purpose of school was to teach the ability to read and write so one could understand the Bible and catechisms. When I was about 7 or 8, my parents decided it was time for me to go to a different school, and there are 4 types of schools that I could have gone to. The first school was a school of African Americans and Native Americans. For African Americans, their opportunity of education was very limited. They were only able to learn what their masters needed from them. The work that they would be doing is the only education that they needed. Most of the time, they could not even read or write. For Native Americans, it was all up to the leaders of their community and what they thought the children should be taught.
The second school was the Dame School. These schools were held by widows or housewives in the kitchen of their home while they were teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic at the bare minimum. This school allowed boys and girls, but the girls were only able to learn sewing and basic homemaking skills. Other than that, girls and women could not receive the same type of education as men. They were to be the mothers of the family. My parents did not want me to go there because they had the money to go somewhere better, and I was already past learning the alphabet and the horn book. The third school was a reading and writing school that was for boys only, and it was an extension of what our parents could teach us at home. Everything there was based on the Bible and catechism. The fourth and final school that my parents decided to send me was the Latin grammar school. This school was for all boys, and it was going to help me figure out what job I was going to do in the future. Each and every day I went to school, I thought about how the things I was learning was going to fit in the job I had later in life. The curriculum and other things in the schools were chosen by the people of the church, government, and community. The quality of teaching in these schools was significantly higher than the regular schools, such as the Dame School. Teachers there assumed that all students could read and write, and they were correct. I went there for 7 years, going 6 days a week. I know how awful that sounds. We went from 6 to 11 a.m. and then again from 1 to 4 p.m. We went in the winter and summer. Latin and Greek were the principal studies in these schools. We read Latin authors, spoke Latin poetry, and conjugated Greek verbs. The main purpose of these schools was religion in and out. Everything was based on the Puritan beliefs and how we should live our lives. Teachers' other main objective was discipline. This objective was to turn us from immature little kids to make us act like adults as quick as possible. It was not unusual for a teacher to hit a student for getting an answer wrong or speaking out in class. Teachers expected students to come in and listen, to lend them their attention and try to learn. When I graduated, I attended Harvard that was established in 1636. When I went there, I learned about all types of laws that passed regarding schools. The Massachusetts Act of 1642 was a milestone and the first education law ever passed. Church and civic leaders decided that kids' education was no longer a choice of their parents. They saw that many kids were receiving bad education, so they made it required that they had to go to some type of school. Reading and writing were the 2 main skills that all children were required to have. Another act was the Massachusetts Act of 1647. This act mandated and established the support of schools. Towns with more than 50 homes were to appoint a teacher to instruct all children how to read and write. Towns with more than 100 homes were to establish a Latin grammar school.
When I was there, I saw many different types of people. There was one family who owned a small farm that I bought food from, and I asked them about their education. They said poor farm families have no formal schooling because they were to work on the farm to support the family. I also met one of the church leaders of a church near the school, and he told me that the church and government are in charge of all the schools. They only want certain types of things to be taught and everything focused on the religious aspect. After talking with these types of people, I knew that when I graduated from Harvard, my life would be in the hands of the church to help people like this.